A minute ago it was very gloomy. Now the sun just came out and it's so bright. Here's in Hebrew it's called a matzil, a lifeguard, and he's got a lifesaver hanging down, which means he's watching. He's in there. That one's closed. There's no one inside. It's boarded. Means no one's on duty. So one of the names that the poets used to call Hashem was Matzil. He's a lifeguard. He watches, and if someone's drowning, he could step in and he could help out. The Alter Rebbe speaks about philosophers, and the Gemara mentions only one time a philosopher in the entire Gemara in Sanhedrin. Mentions Epicurus. It doesn't mention anything he said. It just says that people who follow him are not going to be saved. Like any good religious group that says if you don't join, you're not going to be saved. For no other good reason but the fact that you didn't join. So, the Alter Rebbe points out that philosophers are mistaken when they say that God, they're deists. He's talking about deist philosophers like Benjamin Franklin and maybe Immanuel Kant. And you can find a list of them on Wikipedia. And he mentions that they're mistaken, that they think that Hashem made the world and then he leaves go of it. Because they looked at the world as an unfinished product of some philosophers like Denis Diderot looked at the world in the beginning like a deist and then later changed his mind. And they said that God was like a baby in diapers. He made a world, but because of all the monstrosity, deformity, which is kind of like evidence against the designer. There's no designer if you want to look at the world as if it's designed. But then comes the question, is there a matzil? Is there a lifeguard like that guy watching? So illness and poverty and all the sophisticated and strong people taking advantage of the weak is more evidence that there is nobody watching, or he's watching and he just doesn't care. Like in the movie One of Us, where the boy asks the rabbi Rappaport, he sits with him, and then Rappaport sticks out his hand like this, like he's going to give a chiddush. Before he could even say anything, he points out his hand, meaning he's not sure what he's going to say. He just wants to say something, and that something should fit with what he already believed as a child. Great philosopher. So, in other words, he's not helpful, because the only help that humans could do could use their rationale, their mind, and modify the environment, make it better, save more people, more science, more rational thinking over blind faith, and so on. So the Alter Rebbe points out to those deists who say that the world was created, he started the product and he left go. The Alter Rebbe didn't mention the full thing, but Shais Taub says that the Alter Rebbe was in Vitebsk and he was in the universities, and he was exposed. Don't forget that Gottfried Leibniz, who was also a deist and also believed that that Hashem made a perfect world, which is a kind of a joke if any student looks at it. And you look around and you don't have to go far. And the Alter Rebbe says those philosophers who say that Hashem made this world, but he left go. And he left go of an unfinished product. So he's not here, he's not watching, and he didn't finish the product anyway. That's how much God belief they have. Deists is what they're called. Now, the Alter Rebbe's answer to them is no. His hand is in creation every moment. And other terminology that come from the Kabbalim and other people, that medieval philosophers. He's always involved, and it's basically borderline pantheism, where you believe that God is not only omnipresent, but he is nature itself. He's built into the universe, which is just reverse atheism. So although Spinoza never said he was an atheist, we could be rest assured he was, because he was even happy about that Chedem where it said he's going to be cut off from this world and the next. Some very scary shit. And now is Halloween, and a lot of the Halloween folklore is about souls that can't get into heaven because they they were too arrogant, or they were too fat, or too skinny, or just the guy was just being a dick. And they come back down, and they roam around, and then you have to put out the candy buckets or whatever. Folk stuff. So, and then, of course, the Baal Shem Tov tried to say that Hashem is everything and everywhere. But then again, how do you make him good? Because the church had a very powerful God that was good. And it wasn't ready to lose that. The church, we're talking about medieval France. And they were giving people a list of things they're not allowed to say. And not allowed to ask. Kind of like in the movie One of Us, where you're not allowed to ask certain questions. So, one of the things you were not allowed to say is that philosophy is the highest form of learning back then, because then they didn't have the modern science, so that was the best they could do. Thank you for watching. That's a good 6 minutes. Enjoy. Happy Halloween, and Mazel Tov.